The wind howled across the golden fields of Willow Creek, Montana, carrying the faint scent of hay and the distant bark of a dog. In the heart of the valley, a lone woman stood on the porch of a weathered farmhouse, her silhouette framed against the setting sun. Her name was Sarah Kane, a single mother who'd traded the chaos of war for the quiet of this rural life. But tonight, something was wrong. Headlights pierced the dusk, creeping closer. 3 trucks, their engines growling like predators. Sarah's hand tightened around the porch railing. She didn't know it yet, but these intruders were about to awaken a side of her she'd buried long ago. Hey, if you're new here and love stories that grip your heart and keep you on the edge of your seat, hit that subscribe button right now and join our community for more epic tales like this one. Sarah Kane was no stranger to danger, but she'd chosen this farm to escape it. 5 years ago, she'd left the U.S. Army Special Forces, Green Beret, elite sniper, a ghost in the shadows of battlefields from Kandahar to Mosul. She'd seen things that haunted her dreams, carried scars both visible and hidden. Now, all she wanted was peace for herself and her 9-year-old daughter, Lily. The farm was their sanctuary, a sprawling 50 acres of wheat and barley, a small barn for their 2 horses, and a vegetable garden Lily tended with pride. They were a team, just the 2 of them, after Sarah's husband died in a car accident 3 years prior. The townsfolk of Willow Creek knew her as the quiet widow who kept to herself, always polite but distant, her gray eyes carrying a weight no one could quite place. But not everyone in Willow Creek was kind. The trouble started 3 months ago, when a local crew of troublemakers, led by a man named Travis Boone, set their sights on Sarah's land. Travis was the kind of man who thrived on power, a former high school football star turned small-time real estate hustler. He'd been buying up struggling farms across the county, pressuring owners to sell cheap or face consequences. Most folks caved. Travis had a reputation for making life hell if you didn't. His crew, 4 men in their late 20s, all loyal to him like dogs to a master, had been spotted slashing tires, poisoning livestock, and sprayed painting threats on barns. The sheriff, a tired man nearing retirement, turned a blind eye, too afraid or too lazy to cross Travis. Rumor had it Travis's uncle was a county commissioner, pulling strings from the shadows. Sarah's farm was the last holdout. She'd inherited it from her late husband, and it was more than land. It was a promise to Lily, a place to build a future. Travis wanted it for a fraction of its worth, claiming he'd turn it into a luxury hunting lodge for rich city folks. Sarah had said no, her voice calm but firm, the first time he showed up at her gate with a greasy smile and a lowball offer. That's when the harassment began. At first it was small, missing fence posts, a broken water pump. Then it escalated. Last week, someone had poisoned her chickens, leaving Lily in tears as they buried the birds. Sarah's patience was wearing thin, but she didn't want trouble. Not yet. Tonight, though, the trucks pulling in her driveway weren't here to talk. Sarah watched as they parked in a semicircle, their headlights blinding her. She sent Lily to her room with a whispered, "Stay quiet, baby. Everything's gonna be fine." The girl nodded, clutching her stuffed rabbit, her wide eyes trusting her mother completely. Sarah stepped back inside, grabbed her old hunting rifle from the closet. Not her military gear, just a civilian, 308 she kept for coyotes, and walked back to the porch. Her heart was steady, her breathing slow, the way it used to be before a mission. She wasn't afraid, but something inside her was waking up. Travis stepped out of the lead truck, his boots crunching on the gravel. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a smirk that made your skin crawl. His crew followed, Jake, a wary guy with a shaved head, Cody, a hulking figure who always carried a crowbar, and the twins, Matt and Mark, who laughed too loud and followed Travis like shadows. They were armed, not with guns but with bats and pipes, their faces lit with the kind of glee that comes from knowing you outnumber your prey. "Evening, Sarah," Travis called, his voice dripping with mock politeness. "Thought we'd drop by." "Time's up. You're going to sign those papers, or we're going to make things real unpleasant." Sarah stood her ground, the rifle resting casually in her arms, not raised but ready. "Get off my land, Travis," she said, her voice low, almost a growl. The men laughed, exchanging glances like they'd expected this. Travis took a step closer, his smirk widening. "You think you're tough, huh? A single mom playing farmer. You're out of your league, sweetheart. This is my county." He nodded to Cody, who hefted his crowbar and started toward the barn, where Sarah's horses were stabled. "Let's start with your pretty little ponies," Travis said. "Then maybe we'll visit that kid of yours." That was the line. Sarah's eyes narrowed, and something shifted inside her. The farm, the quiet life, the promise to Lily, it all flashed before her. But so did the deserts of Iraq, the mountains of Afghanistan, the moments when she'd stared through a scope and made decisions that ended lives. She wasn't just a mother. She wasn't just a farmer. She was a warrior, and these men had no idea who they were dealing with. "Last warning," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the night like a blade. The men froze, sensing something in her tone they hadn't expected. Travis laughed, but it was forced now, less certain. "You gonna shoot us all, Sarah? You don't have the guts." He gestured to his crew, and they spread out, circling the house like wolves. Sarah didn't move. She didn't need to. Years of training had taught her to read a battlefield, to know when to wait and when to strike. She let them think they had the upper hand. Cody reached the barn first, raising his crowbar to smash the lock. That's when Sarah moved. In one fluid motion, she raised the rifle, aimed not at Cody but at the ground near his feet, and fired. The shot cracked like thunder, kicking up dirt an inch from his boot. Cody yelped, stumbling back, his crowbar clattering to the ground. The others froze, their bravado evaporating. "Next one's in your knee," Sarah said, her voice calm but deadly. "Jet. Off my land." Travis's face twisted with rage. "You crazy bitch." He spat, but he didn't move closer. He wasn't stupid. He'd seen the precision of that shot, the way the bullet hit exactly where she wanted. This wasn't a scared mom with a gun. This was something else. "You're gonna regret this," he growled, backing toward his truck. His crew followed, their confidence shaken. As they peeled out, tires spitting gravel, Travis leaned out his window and shouted, "This ain't over, Sarah!" "You're done." Sarah stood on the porch until the taillights vanished, her heart pounding but her hands steady. She checked on Lily, who was curled up in her room, safe but shaken. "Mom, are they gone?" the girl whispered. Sarah knelt beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "For now, baby," she said. "For now." But Sarah knew Travis wouldn't stop. Men like him never did. And deep down, a part of her, the part she tried to bury, was ready for what came next. The next morning, Willow Creek buzzed with gossip. Word of the confrontation spread, twisted and exaggerated, as small-town stories do. Some folks called Sarah reckless, others brave. A few older farmers, who'd lost their own land to Travis's schemes, started whispering about fighting back. But Sarah didn't care about the rumors. She had work to do. She spent the day fortifying the farm, checking fences, installing motion sensor lights, and moving her horses to a neighbor's barn for safety. She didn't want a war, but she was preparing for one. That night, she sat at the kitchen table, cleaning her rifle, her mind racing. She hadn't wanted to touch her old gear, the tools of her past life, but Travis was forcing her hand. In a locked chest under her bed was a case she hadn't opened in years. A custom-built sniper rifle, a suppressor, night vision optics, and a set of knives she'd once used in missions she'd never speak of. She told herself she'd left that life behind, but now, with Lily asleep upstairs, she wondered if that life had ever truly left her. The attacks escalated over the next week. One night, someone cut her water line, flooding the fields. Another, they burned a crude message into her front lawn, SELOR SEFER. Lily was scared to go to school, afraid the men would come back. Sarah kept her home, teaching her math and reading in the kitchen, trying to keep things normal. But normal was gone. The townsfolk were too afraid to help, and the sheriff dismissed her complaints, saying, "No proof, no crime." Sarah knew she was alone, and that was fine. She'd been alone before. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a moonless Friday, the air thick with the promise of rain. Sarah had sent Lily to stay with a trusted friend in town. Sensing trouble was coming, she was right. At midnight, her motion sensors pinned, and she saw them on the security camera she'd installed. 5 figures this time, moving through the fields toward the house. Travis had brought a new guy, someone Sarah didn't recognize, a hulking figure with a rifle slung over his shoulder. They weren't here to scare her anymore. They were here to end it. Sarah slipped into the attic, where she'd set up a vantage point days earlier. The sniper in her had never really gone away. She'd just been dormant, waiting. She opened the chest, assembled her rifle in under a minute, and attached the suppressor. Through the night vision scope, she watched them approach, their movements sloppy, overconfident. Travis was in the lead, carrying a gas can, likely planning to burn the house. The new guy, the one with the rifle, hung back, scanning the darkness like he knew what he was doing. Sarah's instincts screamed he was the real threat. She didn't want to kill. She hadn't taken a life since her last mission, and the weight of those memories still crushed her. But this was her home, her daughter's future. She made a decision. She aimed at the gas can in Travis's hand and fired. The silenced shot was a soft whip, and the can exploded, dousing Travis in gasoline. He screamed, dropping to the ground, thinking he'd been hit. The others scattered, shouting, confused. Sarah fired again, this time at the new guy's rifle, shattering its stock and sending him diving for cover. She didn't aim to kill, just to send a message. But the message was clear: she was no victim. The men fled, Travis cursing as he stumbled back to the trucks. But Sarah knew this wasn't the end. She'd humiliated Travis, and men like him didn't forgive. She needed a plan, something bigger than defending her farm. She needed to take the fight to him. The next day, Sarah did something she hadn't done in years. She reached out to her old unit. Not all of them, just two. Her spotter, Mike Hawk Dawson, and her explosives expert, Lena Spark Rodriguez. They were retired, living quiet lives, but they owed Sarah their lives from missions long past. When she called, they didn't hesitate. By nightfall, they were at the farm, their faces weathered but their skills sharp. Hawk, a wary man with a perpetual grin, clapped Sarah on the shoulder. "Thought you went soft, Kane," he teased. Spark, a petite woman with a fiery glare, was already unpacking gear. "Let's burn these bastards down." Figuratively, of course, she said, winking. Together, they devised a plan. Travis wasn't just a bully, he was a criminal, and his operation went deeper than anyone in Willow Creek knew. Hawk's contacts in law enforcement, ones who weren't bought off, revealed Travis was laundering money through his real estate deals, using the farms he acquired as fronts. If they could get proof, they could bring him down legally. But proof meant getting close, and that meant risk. Sarah and her team turned the farm into a fortress, setting traps, non-lethal but effective. Tripwires linked to floodlights, pressure plates that triggered deafening alarms, even a few of Spark's flashbangs rigged to scare, not kill. They also hacked into Travis's phone, thanks to Spark's tech skills, and found texts linking him to a deal with a shady developer from Billings. The deal was set to close in 3 days at an abandoned warehouse on the edge of town. That was their chance. The night of the deal, Sarah, Hawk, and Spark moved like ghosts. They infiltrated the warehouse, Sarah taking a perch on a rusted catwalk with her rifle, Hawk and Spark planting cameras and mics to record the transaction. Travis arrived with his crew plus the developer, a slick man in a suit who reeked of money. The deal was simple: Travis would sell Sarah's farm, which he didn't yet own, for a massive profit, splitting the cash. The developer didn't care how Travis got the land, only that he delivered. Sarah watched through her scope, her finger off the trigger but ready. She didn't want to shoot, not unless she had to. The cameras were rolling, capturing every word. Travis bragged about how he'd break Sarah, how he'd scare her out of town. The developer laughed, promising more deals if Travis could keep delivering. It was enough. They had him. But then things went wrong. One of Travis's men, Jake, spotted a reflection from Hawk's camera lens. "We've got company," he shouted, pulling a pistol. The warehouse erupted into chaos. Travis's crew drew weapons, the developer bolted, and Sarah had to make a call. She fired a warning shot, shattering a window above Travis's head. "Drop it," she shouted, her voice echoing. The men froze, but Jake was too wired, too loyal. He raised his pistol, aiming into the shadows where Hawk was hiding. Sarah didn't hesitate. Her shot was clean, surgical, hitting Jake's hand and sending the gun flying. He screamed, collapsing, and the others dropped their weapons, hands raised. Spark and Hawk moved in, zip-tying the crew while Sarah kept her scope trained on Travis. He was shaking, his bravado gone, gasoline still staining his jacket from the other night. "Who the hell are you?" he whispered. "Someone you shouldn't have crossed," Sarah said, stepping into the light. She didn't need to say more. The cameras had everything: Travis's confession, the deal, the threats. By morning, the footage was with the FBI, thanks to Hawk's contacts. Travis and his crew were arrested, the developer implicated, and the sheriff forced to resign when his ties to Travis's uncle came to light. Sarah returned to her farm, the weight of the past weeks lifting but not gone. She'd protected her home, her daughter, but she'd also reopened wounds she'd thought were healed. Lily ran to her, hugging her tight, and Sarah promised they'd be okay. The town, once silent, rallied around her. Farmers who'd lost their land started legal battles to reclaim it, inspired by Sarah's stand. She didn't want to be a hero, but sometimes surviving makes you one. As the sun set over Willow Creek, Sarah stood on her porch, Lily beside her, the field stretching out like a promise kept. She wasn't just a mother or a farmer. She was a warrior, and she'd fought for what mattered most. Maybe that's who she'd always been. Hey, thank you for watching this story all the way through. It means the world to us. Now, we want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let us know, from which part of the country are you watching this video? Whether you're in Montana like Sarah or somewhere else entirely, let's connect in the comments. And if you love this story, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs a little inspiration today. See you in the next one.